Well, that will go down as one of the games which happened. All right, just watched England versus Wales from Twickenham, World Cup warm-up game. 1 month, 4 weeks to the day till England will be taking on Argentina, and the same weekend Wales will be taking on Fiji, and that was hard, wasn't it? I mean, I've got to admire the commentary team, people I know well, Nick Mullins included, who did a brilliant job at trying to squeeze what life there was out of that game. But let's be honest, there was not a lot, was it? It was uninspiring. By the way, this is my initial takes immediately following full time, which has just happened. The time now is, it's 5:36, so the game's just finished. And these are my initial thoughts. I'll give a more reasoned take with a bit more insight. I just want to get you the raw feelings straight away, and I want yours as well, so get stuck in the comments. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers. If you haven't hit subscribe on the channel, do, because there's so much rugby coming, and I'll be covering all of it in the build up to and during the Rugby World Cup. So this game I'd sort of summarise was uninspiring. There was a point actually at 60 minutes when Wales, I actually wanted Wales to score. I'm an Englishman, and I wanted that because I actually felt bad for the fans in the stadium that they'd seen no action. It was a bit of a mad last quarter of the game, wasn't it? But you got all the action in that one moment, but it was typical of the game that no individual player could score, and it was a penalty try and a yellow card. And the referee's probably one of the few positives in the match. And well, if he was getting, I'm sure he got a good match fee. If he was getting paid per card, then that guy's doing very well. But I actually thought he had a good game. Players, not so much. I mean, one of the biggest concerning things, this game ultimately doesn't mean a lot, because England and Wales, if they play anywhere near what they're capable of, they should get out of their pool. And then it's a quarter-final, and who knows, they've got time to build up form. But what was really concerning, I'm a massive fan of rugby, and I love the sport. Played it since I was 6 years old. My son plays it. I want as many people as possible to enjoy rugby, and yeah, that was uninspiring. There were empty seats at Twickenham. We're 1 month from a Rugby World Cup. There should be enough excitement for people actually to turn up. And I can imagine, I mean, you could say it's summer holidays, it's football season's back, I don't know, but I worry that it's a bit of apathy growing for rugby in England. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope this is why we need a good World Cup. I think a lot of people in that stadium were probably wishing they hadn't gone. Certainly about half time, because even Idris Elba, who there was a close-up of, he looked like he was sort of going, okay, what? Think of the other things I could be doing. But you got to say fair play Wales. I would say fair play Wales with a much changed team coming and giving it a crack. I mean, there's lots of issues for them that they need to address. For England as well, you've got to say fair play. 12 men down, turning things around, showing some minerals, winning the game. You can't take it away. And I think England have lost their last 3 matches, haven't they? And the last team they managed to actually beat was Wales. So if this is a match-up in a quarter-final, psychologically that could be important. But psychologically for people watching the game, that's 80 minutes we won't get back. The one thing I will say about Wales is that, and this I think is to Warren Gatland and his Wales squad's credit, is they may have lost the game narrowly here, but one thing you will always get from Warren Gatland's squads, and it didn't look like you got that when he first took over, but it's taken a while to build this up. But we're back now to that familiar feel of a Warren Gatland team that, even with no possession, making lots of errors, blowing opportunities, they are still in the fight till the end. And when you come to a World Cup, when anything can happen, a player could get a red card like today, being in the fight in the last 20 minutes is massive, and Wales have got that in their DNA, and that's a positive. And when you think about some of the players that came in today, I think the biggest thing I'd say for Wales is, compared to England, with England I would have guessed, if we'd had a chat before this game, I probably would have thought I could name 12 or 13 of England's starting players against Argentina. For Wales, I wouldn't have a clue where to start. The difference is, those 12 players that I would have named for England, very few of them are giving the performances of a team that's going to go deep in a World Cup, whereas even though I can't pick a starting Wales 15, there's probably 30 guys that are legitimately fighting hard for spots, and that's a reasonable place to be in. I mean, for example, centre, Joe Roberts, Nick Tompkins, Mason Grady, Max Llewellyn, take your pick, and others, and you kind of get the feeling with Wales that whoever they pick, they'll be all right, because the world-class players they do have, the big-name guys like Liam Williams today, who was awesome, and Dan Biggar and Josh Adams, you get the feeling guys like this are going to step up. But I think it's probably worth saying at this point that reminder of the players that are injured, because the headlines are going to be about Owen Farrell. We'll get onto that in a second. But it was minute 1. I went out to grab a drink and I came back and started watching the game, and Henry Arundel was on his knees, and I thought, oh no. Fortunately, he was okay, but Dewi Lake went off injured. Jack Van Poortvliet looked injured. They both look reasonable injuries, so they may miss the World Cup as a result, and it's harsh on players, but it just goes to show that squads may get announced, but a lot can change in the next 4 weeks, and probably will. But yeah, the headline is going to be about Owen Farrell, isn't it? I mean, no question about the red card. People are going to start making big statements about how he's a liability, blah blah blah. We've heard it about Owen Farrell's tackle technique a lot. I think he's actually rectified that for the most part. I mean, it was a red card, and he may well miss the Argentina game as a result, which is a shame. But one thing it made me think of in the aftermath of that is, do you remember when Eddie Jones took over and he was playing Owen Farrell at 10? And I can't remember who the centre pairing he was playing. It might have been, was it Brad Barrett? No, he must have given. Anyway, it doesn't matter who it was. There was injuries in the centres too, definitely Manu Tuolangi, and as a result, Eddie Jones was forced into playing forward Farrell, and it worked. I wonder if Steve Borthwick, who clearly has like a rigid plan for England, I wonder if Owen Farrell being out might mean he's forced into making a change that he wouldn't want to make, and it may really work out. And I'm not suggesting that Owen Farrell shouldn't be playing for England, by the way. I'm actually one of the few people, and this channel, I've been saying it for months, as you'll know if you've been watching, I'm one of the few people that actually quite likes Ford and Farrell as a combination. And I think potentially, and we saw glimpses today, that you could imagine a position in a few weeks' time where George Ford is undroppable for England. And whether that's with Owen Farrell outside him or whether that's with someone else, that could be a really good thing for England. It could change the way they play, because the way they play was, as I say, uninspiring. I love George Ford. I actually love Owen Farrell as well, for what it's worth. But that first half particularly, I mean, actually, let me ask, tell me in the comments, were you getting the same adverts? If you were watching on Amazon, were you getting the same adverts as I was getting? Adverts for, what was it, hair loss pills and like erectile dysfunction, adult nappies. The adult nappy guy, he needs to go. I mean, that's not my algorithm, is it? That's just what everyone's seeing, right? Because that worries me about the demographic of rugby fans at the minute. But as long as it's not just me, if you're getting that as well, then I feel a little bit better. But the most depressing part of that was the most entertaining part of the first half, which was absolutely dire. The attacks look rusty as anything on both sides, no mojo whatsoever, and the execution of skills just not good enough at this level. Wales' set piece is rusty, and that's going to be a massive concern. England at times, their set piece looked a bit better and they're taking a step forward, but the cohesion in attack just not there, not where it needs to be. And in terms of entertainment, it's one of those where I remember watching some of the Rugby Championship games a few weeks back, and I was having a bit of a giggle at the music in the South African and the New Zealand stadiums. But you can have a laugh at it, but the rugby on the field's really good. But my goodness me, I'll take the South African hip-hop DJ any day, or the New Zealand like 80s music any day, over that trumpet monstrosity at Twickenham. What on earth was that? No. It's like trying to force fun when there was no fun, particularly in that first 60 minutes. Well, let me try and throw some positives in there. Positives, I've already mentioned Liam Williams. He was absolutely brilliant. Dan Biggar showed class. He's shown class twice now when he's come on. And what a controlling, calming figure he is. For England, Ben Earl, it doesn't make sense that Ben Earl is there, because Steve Borthwick hasn't paid him any attention whatsoever up till now. He's been picking out people, Alex Dombrant in the back row the whole time, overlooking Ben Earl, bombing him out of squads, and then suddenly he's starting and looks really good. Surprise, surprise. But it doesn't make sense, but I'm really pleased. And what I liked most was how much Ben Earl cared. Yeah, like, my goodness me, he gave everything. and just his attitude was something that was one of the things that did inspire. You saw a guy there that, oh my God, this means something, and maybe the hardship he's gone through under successive England coaches is why, and I loved it. Also positives for England, the scrum at times, as I mentioned, set piece, like I say, looked a little bit better. George Ford turning things round when they were men down. That could happen in a World Cup, and that's a good place to be psychologically, knowing they've got that in their locker. And then I'm struggling. There we go. Can you tell me any more positives? Tell me some positives for the game, because I want to have a glass half full, not a glass half empty. But that, to me, sometimes that didn't look like a glass of water at all, or a rugby game at least. Wales have got some problems. They've got a creaky set piece they need to sort out. They're lacking a bit of mojo in attack. But, like I say, they've got an attitude of workmanlike competence. And what was that phrase Warren Gatland always says? Be the best at the things that require no skill. Fitness, effort, attitude. And they definitely had a bit of that. A forgettable game. But I guess it's an England win. I tell you, if it's a score like that in a World Cup quarter-final, nobody will care. If it's a game like that in a World Cup quarter-final, and whoever comes out on the winning side will not care. So maybe we should get into that World Cup mindset now. I'll be back with more considered, deeper, hopefully more insightful thoughts. I can't promise that. I'll try. But in the meantime, get your comments stuck in down there, and I will see you on the next video. Hit subscribe, yeah?